Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
We welcome you in on a Monday morning to Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. The Eagles will be flying to Super Bowl 52, as will the New England Patriots. Glad you're with us. Hope your Monday's off to a great start. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. And again, once our Australian Open coverage ends on ESPN2, we will kick back to there on the television side. And for those of you that don't know, and maybe many people don't, we talk about Cliff, our board officer.
Yes, we do.
The wonderful music magician that he is, hails from Philadelphia.
Yes, he does.
So he is all in on that sound to start off the show, Fly, Eagles, Fly. And, of course, as a former Eagle, you have no problem
Cliff
with
and
that.
I had a moment in the hallway where we just kind of looked at one another just with that acknowledgement of,
Both silently nodded and just looked at each other and went, free Meek.
Yeah. That's exactly. Say who?
Yeah, don't worry about it. But
All right,
it was a great.
Don't go down that rabbit hole.
Don't do it. I'm trying to drag you into the abyss. Resist the urge. But it was cool for me to see out of you and Mom, because traditionally haven't been people that have shown a ton of fandom outside of when we were at Notre Dame.
Right.
But in the last week or so, I have seen some of those roots where, listen, you guys were young adults coming of age in the city of Philadelphia while you were there, and I could tell you both felt pretty good for this team getting back to the big stage.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, because you're right. We don't really, outwardly root for any teams outside of Notre Dame, especially when you guys were there. And even so now, that's the one we kind of hold dearest to most. But it was nice to see, spending, 6 years of my career there, both you and Jake Bourne there. It was nice. We loved it. We loved that city. We think it's a great sports city. It is a great sports city. They're fans that will let you know when you're good, and they'll let you know when you're bad. No doubt about it.
You know what? All you want is someone to be honest with you, right?
And they're very honest.
They will be honest
and maybe
with
throw
you.
a full beer at you.
Yeah, or ride the dune buggy up the steps, of the Rocky statue. It's all great in Philly. Obviously, it started in New England before that. And you know how we do these things. It's all about us and our picks.
Sure.
And can we look good?
You were this close to being a hero.
I was
that close.
I was. Please open up the offense just a little bit close, and maybe stop a team on 3rd and 18 close, and maybe don't have Tom Brady on the field close to being right on both my picks.
But instead, once again, we split, so we are even and 500 for the postseason. So it is Super Bowl 52. The New England Patriots will be taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Deja video. It'll be a rematch of Super Bowl 39,
right?
Which ironically was played in Jacksonville.
Yes, it was.
And, of course, New England had to get by Jacksonville in the AFC Championship game. And there is a lot to get into in both of these games, but let's start with the AFC Championship game, because you did come really close to making that prediction of Jacksonville on Friday look like you were just the smartest guy on the planet. And there's been a lot of talk already about things that happened or didn't happen in that game. By didn't happen, I mean a lot of people are noticing that the Patriots were called for one penalty in that game. It was the lowest number of penalties that a playoff team has had called against them since 2011, when the Patriots had one penalty called against them. But let's just stop right there, because I don't think that had anything to do with the outcome of this game. The thing that keeps coming back to me in the AFC Championship game, Mike, is I go over this, and I'm sure it's going to stick in the craw of a lot of folks in Jacksonville for a lot of this offseason. You have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. You are playing phenomenal defense. You have the Patriots and Tom Brady in a 3rd and 18, and you let them convert a first.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And you can say whatever you want about the penalty against A.J. Bouye in the first half, which was a terrible call.
Yeah, I agree.
Brandon Cooks ran himself out of bounds.
Right.
A.J. Bouye was doing his job. That never should have been a PI. But we can talk about a million different things. You had them right where you wanted them. You had New England down 10, facing a 3rd and 18, and you don't play the sticks. To me, that was the most pivotal point of the entire AFC Championship.
Yeah, listen, and a lot of things leading up to that. I mean, you could start picking your spots, and that's what will happen, I think, Mike, with Jacksonville in the offseason. You're going to do a lot of what ifs. Boy, it's not, because it's not like this was a game where, you were, hey, we're happy to be here, and this is a team that could have won this game. This is a team that put themselves in position to win this game. But whenever you play New England, you have to play New England. And they stopped playing New England. Whether you want to get to 55 seconds left in the first half with a couple of timeouts, I can almost let that slide because you're getting the ball in the third quarter and you're winning 14-10. So I can almost let that slide. But there's so much to get into with this, Mike. But one of the first things that I would ask as an offensive lineman, the play calling in the second half to me by Jacksonville was horrific. And I did my own little scouting this morning, or going over the drives. And in the first half, seven times, Jacksonville on first down threw the ball. In the second half, just 3 times they threw the ball. I threw out the 2-minute drive at the end of the game and the 55 seconds at the end of the first half. Just 3 times. How many times they just slammed the ball up there on 1st and 10 to make it 2nd and 9. The same exact play over and over. I can't imagine as an offense or an offensive line looking up and seeing 8, 9 people up in the box saying, what are we doing? We need a little bit of creativity here. We're winning this game. Let's try and win the stinking game.
Well, and with this group, too, that this is one that is built off that mentality of we want to play bully ball. That's how Jacksonville gets down. That's how they beat Pittsburgh, was just by punching them in the mouth the entire time. You relish that opportunity, but you're also not dumb. You understand that first down is the most important down for Jacksonville because of how limited you are at quarterback. Like, they were doing things that entire game to mask what we could all see very clearly is the chief deficiency throughout this playoff run for that team. And so you get to the second half and you realize, guys, lining up in 2nd down and 9 every time and having to really put it in this guy's lap is not the way that we're going to win this game. And so to that end, it would be tremendously frustrating as a guy up front in knowing that we feel like we're doing this because we have to, but then staring at the first half and say we felt like we had the answer then. So it's that balance between wanting to establish mentality and understanding that it's not working.
Everybody is going to sit here and say, or a lot of people, and I get it, well, Blake Bortles was 23 of 36 for 293 yards. He didn't throw an interception. He threw for more yards than Tom Brady. He played well. You can't put it on him. All I have to say, people, is in the second half, when they needed some drives, they didn't trust him. They did not trust him to make plays on first down. They went into a shell and said, we don't think we can win with this guy out front leading it like they did in the first half. I have no idea why it gripped on them, and maybe he could have. Maybe he could have done it. He was doing it well in the first half. Now, New England made some adjustments. They played closer to the line because a lot of them were short passes. They wanted to take that away. Didn't even try. You didn't even try. You just ran into a brick wall every friggin' first down.
Well, and that's the thing that was so weird, because in the first half, Nathaniel Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator, is the offensive coordinator for the Jags, I thought was doing a masterful job of mixing it up, giving them looks that they weren't expecting. And then it seemed like in the second half, let's just send you, number 27, go get that wall of meat. I mean, that was essentially their game plan in the second half, and that was not going to work. But I also want to go back to the first half, because I think they're up 14-3. Yeah. And the Jags, the last possession of the first half before the kneel down, I thought summed up the problems that they sort of let slip away from themselves here. Okay, they had a 3rd and 7. They had a 3rd and 7 at New England's 44. Coming out of a timeout, they throw a pass, 12 yards, first down. But they didn't get the play off.
How do you delay a game coming out of a timeout?
How do you get a delay of game coming out of a timeout?
Horrible.
Because at that point, they're at the 36. They're at the 32-yard line. If they get that play off in time, and now you're thinking, hey man, we could be up 17-3. Yep. We could be up 21-3. We're going to run out the clock with us holding the ball. And if you're going to beat that team, if you're going to beat the New England Patriots, you have to be so good for so long, and you can't beat yourselves. And to me, it started to unravel on that drive for Jacksonville. And then, of course, they had the big, on that next ensuing drive by New England, they had the A.J. Bouye PI, which wasn't a PI.
That was a horrible call.
And to me, that's sort of like, those are the things you can't do. You just can't make those kind of mistakes.
Well, and because you give Tom Brady a chance to do what he does best. Tom Brady and that Patriot offense had been struggling in the first half. They weren't putting up points. So what did you do? You put him in the situation he's most comfortable in. You put him in the 2-minute situation where Tom gets to go out there and call the shots, and they operate in that system almost better than anyone. And it said going into that third down, if you give them a chance, they're going to score, and it's going to do something different to this team. And it's exactly what we saw play out in that. So to me, that delay of game was the biggest play in the game because then you saw their true colors. Compare what we saw from these two championship games, where at the end of the first half, the Jaguars with a lead and about a minute left after that Patriot 2-minute drive, because they marched down the field quick after that PI. Right. They had about 55 seconds left and decided to kneel it out and go into the half. They could have pressed and tried to get points out. What did the Eagles do when they were up towards the end of the first half with about a comparable amount of time left? They put their foot on the gas and they went and they put 3 more up on the board. They said, we can't just sit here and take this lead. We've got to try and bury him. And that confidence that they had, to your point, and Nick Foles to do that, compared to what Jacksonville had in Blake Bortles, is the most telling part of the weekend.
And I believe Philly got the ball first in the third quarter. Did they not? Can you check
Yes,
that?
they did.
So same situation.
Exact
same situation. That and that is the difference. I mean, how many times the old what's one of the oldest cliches when you're going in the locker room with a lead? What is the mantra in the locker room? Play it like it's 0-0. It's 0-0. Play it like it's 0-0. Hey, Jacksonville, play it like it's 0-0.
Yeah.
Play it like you started the game and don't go into that turtle shell. Now, we will give New England all the credit in the world. You absolutely have to, because it's Tom Brady, but you gave him chance after chance after chance because you didn't do what you did in the first half.
And what that sort of mentality changed in this game and how they sort of went about it differently is really what everybody's talking about. That's brought to you by ADT. Considering home security, consider this. For 140 years, ADT has helped stop more crime than any other home security company. Visit ADT.com to learn more. So clearly it's interesting. We really didn't have this conversation before we got in today, but we're all sort of thinking the exact same thing. And Tom Jackson, by the way, great to see Tommy and Boomer back doing NFL primetime on Sunday. He basically said the same thing, that the Jaguars played a different game in the second half.
But the level of excellence over such a sustained amount of time, I think, has done to all of us. You call it being numb. I think that what happens is that when the Patriots are down 10, when they're down 25 in the Super Bowl, 10 in the fourth quarter today, they believe that they're going to win. But more importantly, the team that they're playing believes that they're going to win. And so you begin to tighten up and you begin to pull the offense back. I talked when we were doing the highlights about how open the offense was for the Jaguars when the game started. It wasn't like that as they got into the fourth quarter, leading by 10. They started to play. It appeared and it felt like they were playing not to lose.
Oh, they absolutely were. Exactly. I mean, and listen, just because we're saying they should have kept it up, because you saw the drive charts in the first half, 9 plays, 4 runs, 5 passes. I mean, the mixture that was going on. Now, all we're saying is they should have tried to do that. New England may have stopped them, but, I mean, give it the chance. Give yourself a chance. I mean, I was just sitting there thinking of you as an offensive lineman in the second half going, my God, what are you supposed to do? You're lying up there, you're looking up and seeing nothing but a wall of meat there saying, there is no shot. And I heard Doug Marrone saying,
we should get wall of meat trending by
this. I heard Doug Marrone kept saying, we were just hoping to pop one, meaning pop a run. Yeah. Really? How were you expecting to pop a run when everybody in the world knew it was coming and you were just running it straight into them?
Well, and you saw them mixing more pressure in on those early downs too, and really trying to infiltrate that backfield. So you had that on both sides of the ball. I mean, we're going to say the Jags didn't address it. It's because the Patriots dictated. Because on the other side too, and I know we were talking about this because I gave the Pats offensive line a lot of credit, Jacksonville refused to get out of that 4-man rush, even after the Patriots committed time and guys to chipping off the edge and did everything they could to mitigate that rush. The first half, I understand 3 sacks are still going to be in that column, but a lot of those even in the beginning felt like coverage sacks. And in the second half especially, you saw nothing from that group when they needed it.
There was one sack where Tom held on to the ball way too long. It was absolutely on him and a good coverage sack. But to your point, and what... Give New England credit.
Yep.
After the first sack on Brady, they said, okay, enough of this. They didn't, a lot of times you'll see one DN, the best pass rusher, get chipped. They were chipping both defensive ends on most plays. And then those guys would go out, but they'd slow them down so the only rushers free to rush were the inside guys. And to your point, Mike, they didn't change.
Nope.
And they stopped getting pressure on the quarterback. They brought pressure the one time with Miles Jack up the gut and got home and got a great hit on Brady, but they didn't do it anymore. They're saying, okay, our ends are getting chipped, so they have a tough time getting rushed. Only our D tackles can get a rush here, and they're not getting a rush, and they didn't adjust to that at all.
Well, the other thing, too, is that remember how big that Corey Grant was in that first half?
Yeah.
Little screen pat. He was everywhere. Where was he in the second half? Didn't see anything out of Corey Grant. I mean, look, here's the thing that's got to be maddening for you if you're Jacksonville, okay? Your quarterback, Blake Bortles, threw for more yards than Tom Brady. You also had more yards per attempt than Tom Brady. You had over 100 rushing yards. You won the time of possession battle by almost 11 minutes. And you got the only turnover in the game, and you still lost. If you're looking at that, if I'd gone to a Jacksonville fan and said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to hold the ball for 35 minutes. You're going to get over 100 rushing yards. Blake Bortles is going to throw for more yards and have more yards per attempt than Tom Brady, and there will be one turnover, and your defense will take it. You would sign up for that tomorrow.
In a heartbeat.
You would take that and think we're going to win 99% of the time. And you know what? Somehow you still didn't.
And that's why when they wake up this morning and they look back at all of that, they will be so mad about the one thing we started off this show talking about, because the difference in the game, the only real statistical difference, as tight as it was 6 penalties for 98 yards. People call it hidden yardage all the time. Yep. It's not hidden. It's special teams and penalty yardage. Yep. And it was basically 100. It was an entire field's worth of penalty yardage that showed up for the Patriots when they needed it the most.
It certainly did. And look, there was the penalties. I don't want to hear about that. There was the one A.J. Bouye penalty that should not have been a penalty.
Bad call.
Terrible call.
I agree.
The call on Church on Gronk, you're going to make that call every time in this
day and age. Is going to get
whether
called.
you like it or not, it's getting called every other time. So that's what Jacksonville has to deal with. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick showed a real human emotion for like 7 seconds when he was hugging Matt Patricia, the defensive coordinator. Then he immediately regretted it. But here we are again, okay? Here we are talking about the Patriots doing this again. Tom Brady has now led a playoff win back in the fourth quarter by 10 points or more 4 times. He's done it 4 times. There've only been 11 instances in the history of the NFL, and no one else has done it more than once. So we are now talking about a guy who is at a completely different level when it talks about turning it up and doing it when it matters the most. And Dante Stallworth, who I follow on Twitter, who played with him, he said he's like a predator. Once he gets a sniff of blood in the water, he's like, if I got a chance, I'm going to go for the kill, and he gets it almost every time.
How amazing is this coming off that stat? Because we all felt it, that sinking feeling of dread.
Didn't you?
Where you just knew.
Yeah.
But because it felt routine. It felt like we had seen this time and time again. It's because we've actually seen the same thing. To Trey's point, in the last 3 instances of those 4 comeback wins, all 3 of the last 3 have involved the Tom Brady to Danny Amendola touchdown in that rally. It's the exact same thing every time.
We've seen this movie, right? We've seen this movie.
And by the way, they did this in the second half without their best target in Rob Gronkowski. Who was out with the concussion.
Well, remember, they won the Super Bowl without Gronk
and
last
because
year.
How much were they trying to force it to Gronk in that first half? Because he was that's another thing. It seemed like the defense for Jacksonville got a little softer in the second half because they were really taking a lot away in the first half, and Tom was really trying to force it to Gronk. And, okay, Gronk's out. Okay, we're going to find another way to do this thing, and it's Amendola they're doing it with.
Well, to your point, that may have actually helped them in the chip help thing in the second half, because when you're trying to force it to Gronk, what are you not doing? You're not going to want to keep him in.
To chip,
they didn't throw balls to Dwayne Allen all year, so what was he? Another very capable body blocking off the edge.
Right.
I thought it was really interesting, too, in that second half. I think in a span of 6 plays, they had 2 trick plays, a double pass that went to Deion Lewis, which actually worked until it didn't when Miles Jack got the fumble, which was remarkable, and then the flea flicker. I mean, to me, that showed how much respect that the Patriots had for that Jacksonville defense. I mean, they had to go deep into that playbook last night to come up with ways to move the ball against that defense.
At the end of the day, it's New England, it's Tom Brady, it's Bill Belichick. They are unbelievable. They make the plays when they have to. They wait and they just do their thing until we all, as we said, everybody gets that feeling in their body of like, yeah, they're going to do it again. And it almost seems like even the opponent knows they're going to do it again. And we'll talk about Tom and this offense and this team for the next 2 weeks. But I'm going to tell you, Jacksonville is going to be sick for a long, long time, knowing how they had a lead in this game and how they're going to watch that tape and say, what the hell are we doing this second half? How did we even play like this?
And 3rd and 18, protect the sticks.
Yeah.
Just protect the sticks. By the way, prior to that 3rd and 18, for the entire Brady-Belichick era since 2001, the Patriots were 0 for 25 on converting anything 3rd and 15 or longer in the postseason. So they didn't even think this was possible.
That was the one thing we hadn't seen before.
Exactly right. So thank you, New England, for giving us something new one more time. So maybe that's why Belichick not only had a real moment of human emotion with Matt Patricia, he also made a funny after the game.
Can you just speak to the resourcefulness of Tom dealing with something like that midweek and then coming out and playing a huge game like that?
I mean, look, Tom did a great job, and he's a tough guy. We all know that, all right? But, I mean, I'm not talking about open heart surgery here.
Awesome.
By the way, for those that aren't watching on ESPN News, the outfit that Belichick wore in the postgame, sun's out, guns out. I mean, he had the cutoff sweatshirt.
The cutoff shirt. I mean, it's unreal. It's like he just finished mowing the lawn. Oh, wait, I got a presser? Okay, here, let me go right in.
It's unreal. He always does look like the stay-at-home dad that's like busy doing chores on the weekend. It's incredible.
And I'm so glad the hand talk will be done. My God, did it get out of hand. He got some stitches in his...
Did you say get out of hand?
Yeah, how about that? I made it funny. Ridiculous.
Give you a hand.
My gosh.
Well,
Thank you.
Brady admitted after the game that he was like, I really was worried on Wednesday and Thursday, and then it calmed down on Friday. You could tell right away, though, that was not going to be an issue for him in that game. No way, no chance, no how. So, again, the Patriots now have a chance to do what the Patriots last did, repeat as Super Bowl champs. And, oh, by the way, the last time they did it, they beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl.
Oh, boy.
24-21, Super Bowl 39.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. They never learn.
No.
They never learn. Golic, Go ahead. Go ahead. I love Lane Johnson. We had him on the show.
I do too, but, they're just being them. I mean, Lane has spoken up about being an underdog. They're talking the smack. I don't have a problem with Jacksonville talking the smack that they did because that's who you are. I don't mind you being who you are, but, man, it just seems like New England just sits back, takes some notes on that, and says, okay, we'll see in a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, look, and here's the deal: is Lane Johnson plays right tackle.
Yeah.
How exactly is he going to be the one dethroning Tom Brady?
I think his team.
But the point is, you know what I mean? Like Jalen Ramsey says it, or Calais Campbell says, "Hey, I'm going to be on the field. I can take that guy down." You're going to be blocking for the other quarterback.
Yeah. Malcolm Jenkins is already on record, gone out and predicted the Super Bowl win. So it's prediction season all the way in the works. We remember Alshon Jeffrey in the offseason when he was still a Bear said we're going to win the Super Bowl. He came out the other day and said, I didn't say who, I just said we.
We said that at the time that he put that tweet out. Absolutely. That's the best part of it. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Speaking of guests, coming up later on, we'll have Jeff Saturday join us at the 7 o'clock hour. Brian Billick from the NFL Network will join us at 8:30, and then at 9 o'clock, Ryan Clark will be in studio here with us. But you know what? There is reason for Philadelphia to be optimistic because no one gave them a chance. They were the number one seed, and they were underdogs in each of their first two playoff games. Here they go. They find a way to scrap, by the way, and get around Atlanta in the divisional round. And then they come out with their backup quarterback and absolutely put a beat down on the number one defense in the NFL. And that would have been the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this game, Minnesota scores the first touchdown and Philly goes for the next 38. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, just incredible. And it was nice that you thought that they go down, the nice pass to Kyle Rudolph, former teammate of yours and Jake's. I mean, it was a nice play. You thought, okay, they started out well running the ball. They mixed the run and the pass, and then that was all she wrote. You go with that pick six, and then on a reverse of the field from Robinson, it was a really nice return. And what they did to what we thought was the best defense, Jacksonville laid claim to it, but Minnesota, especially a pass defense, for how they got ripped apart, man, tip your cap to Philly.
It was crazy, the start of the game for Philadelphia, too. You remember Trey Burton had that really bad, wide-open third down catch where he didn't get both feet
jumped
down.
for no reason.
Right.
Didn't get both his feet down. For the defense, that Kyle touchdown, he's wide open because they were miscommunicated before the snap. It was a blown coverage on the part of the linebackers, so he was basically running scot-free. And then they settled, and it became completely different, and they won both sides of the line of scrimmage in a way that I wasn't ready for. These Eagles offensive line that lost arguably their best player in Jason Peters midway through the season, and then lost their quarterback, has really stepped up. They were dominant yesterday in almost every phase of the game. And then on the other side, the Eagles D-line that we knew was great really took it to the one area that people rightly pointed out as a weakness for Minnesota, which is an offensive line that had to shuffle the deck a little bit. Their right tackle was playing left guard and Mike Remmers. They lost Pat Elflein in the second half, their rookie center. So a lot in flux there, but Philly took it to them in both the areas where it mattered most.
Yeah, that first drive was so disheartening for Philadelphia. They scored the next 38 points in the game.
Really bummed them out.
It was like that drive was in a completely different world, and then the rest of the game took place. You can't say enough, by the way, about what Nick Foles did. Because, look, let's be honest. He did not look great down the stretch of the regular season outside of one start against the Giants, and he did not look great in that first playoff game against Atlanta. He was 26 of 33 for 350-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But he completed his last 15 throws. And by completing his last 15 throws, he has now done something that the list includes Nick Foles and Joe Montana. They are the only people to have completed 75% of their throws in back-to-back playoff games in a single postseason. So when the list is you and Joe Montana, I mean, here's how crazy this weekend was for the quarterbacks. Nick Foles did something that only Joe Montana did. Blake Bortles, at one point in the first half, completed 12 straight throws against the Patriots. The only other quarterbacks to do that against the Patriots, Ben Roethlisberger and Peyton Manning. So we have Blake Bortles now on the same level as Peyton Manning and Ben Roethlisberger against New England, and we have Nick Foles in a similar comparison with Joe Montana. What the hell's going on?
And going into it, we talked about the 4 quarterbacks, one being Tom Brady and then the other 3. There were two certainties. Tom Brady's the GOAT, and Nick Foles is not going to be the starting quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles next year.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Certainties. Case Keenum, we don't know what's going on. And Blake Bortles, we don't know what's going on. Those were two certainties. And here's Nick Foles. We keep talking about, Case Keenum's making him some money. Blake Bortles had his option picked up for $19 million. He's going to make some money. And then there's Nick Foles. Nick Foles is putting himself.
I'm just here.
Just kind of. And I mean, Philly, you love the guy as a backup next year. I mean, what a great backup to have. He helped lead, even though it was just a few starts, your team to the Super Bowl when Wentz goes out.
And to your point about that 75% completion, what's even more impressive is at 10.7 yards per completion in this game. Like, they were airing this thing out.
He was pushing the ball down the field.
Don't get me wrong. There were a ton of run-pass options. Like, if you're New England, that's what
He's throwing that slant really well.
Is throwing that, because in the first half, it seemed like he never even thought about handing it off. It was throwing that slant. Aguilar was huge for them, but to have that confidence and to have that in there along with 75% completion makes it all the more impressive.
Well, and when he had to hold the ball, I don't know how he got out of the one touchdown pass. Who was that? That was to Alshon, right? To Jeffrey, the 53-yarder. How he got out of that, but give the O-line credit for sticking with their blocks. D-line got penetration, but couldn't get off their blocks. You have to give a lot of credit, and you mentioned it before, to that offensive line, because remember, Foles isn't Wentz. No. He's in the pocket. He's not running around. And I know some were the RPOs with the quicker slants. But when he is throwing it downfield, he's got to stand in the pocket. He has to have some time. He was only sacked one time yesterday. So that O-line, again, missing Peters, Vaitai out there.
Pulivati Vaitai.
I'm out there.
I just like saying his name.
I know you do. And you say
H.
Wow.
Big V.
Give me a nickname for him.
Big V.
Big V.
That's what they call him.
He's improved, because remember when he had to go in for Lane Johnson when Lane got suspended last year at right tackle? There was some trouble there, and you went over at left tackle. You wondered, would they move Lane to left and him to right? You didn't want to switch up 2 positions. Yeah. They put Big V out there to the left. He's doing a nice job. And that O-line with an undersized center in Kelsey, who'll bite, scratch, and kick the hell out of you. Wisniewski, who's found new life in Philadelphia.
Who was a former center, by the way, and they laud both of them. Football intelligence off the charts for 2 guys that can help out a backup quarterback.
Undersized guys, and then Brooks at right guard and Lane Johnson at right tackle, the right side of that line. You got to give them a ton of credit for this.
You absolutely do. And you're right, that one long one, I mean, he had a day and a half to throw.
Day and a half,
Those O-linemen were doing work on that play. But again, Foles, 75% complete, 352 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interception, a QBR of 95.8 out of 100, a rating of 141.4 out of 158.3, which is my favorite stat. Let's make 158.3 the standard and work our way backwards from there. Someone at some point, I need to know how someone thought that was a good idea. We're trying to scratch our heads. We really can't figure out where this came from Nick Foles, but to be honest, neither can he.
I mean, words can't really describe what I feel right now. I said it out there, all glory belongs to God. I mean, I wouldn't be here without any of that, and just I'm grateful and humbled to be a part of this team, to be in this moment, to share it with our family, our fans, all the people that love the Philadelphia Eagles, this franchise, my teammates. It is honestly unbelievable, and words just can't describe.
If you're not watching it on TV,
words can't describe his look.
Yeah, he's got the gray championship T-shirt and the hat on, and he's got some glasses on.
Yeah,
he looks like he's coming from CPA school.
Yeah, he does. You know? He's 6'6", 243, and he didn't look anything like 6'6".
He looks like he makes his own candles at home. Like
he's Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah,
that's who he is.
It is alarming.
But I will say, in the difference of the first game to the second game, they attacked.
Yes,
they attacked. And that's why, it's going to give some people pause of just going immediately with Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, which most people are going to do.
Yep.
But the way they attacked, even with the lead, they kept attacking. That's what you have to do. That's what they do, and that's what you have to do against a team like New England if you're to get a lead against them.
Absolutely. And look, we'll get into a lot more in this game in just a little bit. There's one guy that I couldn't be happier for, because of the way his career began and how it's ending up over the last couple of years has been absolutely amazing.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Our guy, Sal Paolantonio, the ESPN NFL reporter, joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join, and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. So, Sal, before we get into the breakdown of the game, were you able to witness the effectiveness or complete ineffectiveness of the pole greasing by the Philadelphia Police Department?
Listen. People in Philadelphia are going to figure out how to get up a pole with grease or no grease. Okay, it doesn't take too much of a creative genius to figure out how to get up there. And there were plenty of people up on light poles last night. But I'm happy to report there was no major violence. People celebrated, I think, it was a crazy night last night. It was like a Steven Spielberg movie. It was insane. Everywhere you went, Frankfurt and Cotman, South Philadelphia, Center City, everybody was out in the streets. It was a total party. And as far as I can tell, I scoured local news before I came on with you guys because I knew you would go in this direction. Shocks. and I obviously went on Philly.com and PhillyVoice.com and CrossingBroad.com, and there are no reported incidents of violence against any businesses or anybody else. I mean, there were some fights in the parking lot.
Before the game, right?
Yeah, before the game. But I said when I was on with you Friday, we're going to play tackle football before the game, during the game, and after the game. I mean, if you're going to show up in the parking lot with a Vikings jersey on, I mean, come on. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear it. I mean, there was a couple of incidences and a couple of bloody noses, but nothing major. I mean, that parking lot fights happen all over NFL stadiums, everywhere.
So, Sal, knowing that not a lot can really surprise you with either celebration of joy or sadness in Philadelphia, did the dune buggy going up the rocky steps, did that at least get a smirk out of you?
Yes, it did. I was kind of angry I didn't get to ride it. I love a little prop. As you know, Trey, I'm a prop guy on TV. Dune buggy up the rocky steps would be the perfect Sal Pal prop on NFL Live, would it not?
Oh, that would be that would be a thing. That would be a live shot for the ages, Sal. If we could have you in the dune buggy doing the live shot as you were going up the steps.
So I'm very annoyed at myself that I didn't come up with it first.
Well, I do have to ask now that Sal, you pointed out that Eagles fans and Philly sports fans will find a way to climb a pole. So if we know that, what's the point of even greasing them with Crisco if you know it's not going to be a reasonable deterrent?
Well, I think it was for the most part. Yes, I was being somewhat facetious. I think it was. You know, and they've been doing it in New Orleans during Mardi Gras for 20 years.
Absolutely.
It's not anything. Yeah, it's not anything new. It just happens to be on social media in Philadelphia. You know, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It was a little proper prior preparation by the police department, and they were out in full force. And the Philly cops had everything pretty much 99% under control last night. And you had crowds of tens of thousands of people in the street. So congratulations to the Philadelphia Police Department and the Philadelphia football fans. Well, I mean, you got to remember something, and Golic knows this, Trey. Listen, this is Super Bowl 52. There have been a dozen trophies, some Lombardi trophies handed out in the NFC East, more than any other division. Yep. And the Eagles don't have one of them. This town supports this team in a way that really goes beyond, you know, considering what the team has given back over the years. And they believe in the team and they love the team. And I got to tell you, having been around this team and covered it now for a quarter of a century, I think this team is beloved more than any other. And I'm talking about Jerome Brown, Reggie White, that whole Mike Golic team with Buddy Ryan, which was truly a great team and a beloved team in a way that, you know, people hadn't seen since Dick Vermeil. This team, in my view, is the most beloved that I've ever been around.
Well, why do you think that is, Sal?
Doug Peterson, two words, absolutely. This guy has the right tone all of the time. He does it with players. He does it with the media. He does it with his fellow coaches. People want to be around Doug Peterson. And he has been the constant, Trey, through the entire season. When you consider all they lost, two special team stars, Darren Sproles and Chris Maragos, the starting left tackle, your MVP caliber quarterback, the guy with the green sticker on the back of his helmet at middle linebacker, Jordan Hicks. All of those guys got back-to-back at home underdogs, unprecedented for a number one seed, and you win both games and you demolish, I'm going to use that word specifically, you demolished the number one overall defense that was favored in your building, and they demolished them. And you got to go back to Peterson. You know, when I was on live with you during the week, last week, and you asked me about, you know, what's the vibe there? And I said, I've never seen energy like this around a team in the middle of a week during a playoff run. There's a level of intensity, and it has to do with how Peterson pivoted from that Falcons game. That is just a little bit of a window as to how well he coached this team. And one more thing. Last night, after the game in the locker room, he didn't waste any time at all, Peterson. He pivoted right away to the Super Bowl. He said, listen, I have a Super Bowl ring. It doesn't say SEC champs. This is what he told the players. Closed door, behind the scenes. It doesn't say SEC champs. It doesn't say ACC champs. It doesn't say NFC champs. It says world champs on my Super Bowl ring, and that's what we're looking for. And that set the tone right away for this team.
Sal, how quickly did the players that you talked to and the vibe from them switch to the Super Bowl, move past this game?
You know, obviously, Michael, it takes a little bit of time. There was a tremendous celebration, no doubt about it. But you saw the Lane Johnson quote about Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah, you know, I spoke to Malcolm Jenkins on the field. You know, they hadn't even completed constructing the riser for the Fox celebration. And I talked to Malcolm Jenkins on the field, and I said to him, hey, you're going to the Super Bowl. And he said, you know what, Sal? We're not going for a field trip. We're going out there to win it. So it was pretty quick. I think they feel, you know, they're the largest underdog now in the Super Bowl since the Cardinals against the Pittsburgh in 2009, 5.5 point underdogs to the Pats. And I think they have already decided that they're not going to play along with the Patriots' mystique, that you can't beat the Patriots by professing this sort of fake respect. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're right. Look, we played that Malcolm Jenkins sound, but the only thing we objected to is it's a team of destiny. Yeah. Destiny doesn't matter. You got to go out there and play. You know, Sal Powell with us. That's the only thing that sort of struck us. But you made a great point, and I think it speaks to the two teams that are going to be meeting on the field in Minneapolis, and it's resiliency. I mean, we talk about the Patriots winning without Julian Edelman all season. That Gronk goes down in the first half, and they still find a way to beat a very good Jacksonville defense. And everything that Philadelphia has put on there, I don't know if that makes them a team of destiny, but it certainly feels like, Sal, these are the teams that have dug deeper maybe than anybody this year in dealing with a bunch of injuries.
Yeah, team of destiny is an emotional comment from a player. I agree with you, Trey. It's not going to win the game. Execution's going to win the game. And I go back to the trips right flea flicker that Doug Peterson called for Nick Foles. And Nick said after the game, you know, I've never had a coach at any level, high school, college, say in my ear, trips right flea flicker. And he said he had to hide his smile in the huddle because he didn't want to give the play away to the Vikings. He had to hide his glee. And okay, You call the flea flicker, you execute the handoff and then the toss back to the quarterback, but then you got to drop it in the bucket on the 1 yard line and have Torrey Smith catch it off the back shoulder and bring 2 feet down. So you're right, Trey. Team of destiny is one thing, but you got to execute. And the Patriots execute. And so the only way you're going to beat them, again, is to go back to what you've been doing, and that is call the right plays and execute them.
Absolutely. And look, it looks like thank you. You are a professional. Thank you. Yeah. It looks like everybody was in the flea flicker. Jacksonville called one, and the Patriots called one as well. Sal, this is going to be a lot of fun. Philadelphia fans bring a lot of emotion. We appreciate it. Of course, we'll be with you out there in Minneapolis. We'll see it all full force. Thanks for being up early this morning, Sal.
See you, Sal.
I'll talk to you guys on Friday. Thank you a lot.
You got it, brother.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big giant Jell-O mold.
Very interesting where that went.
Real quickly, that play by first of all, that play by Myles Jack was one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen.
Fantastic play.
That was on the double pass play, and it was a big gainer, and somehow Myles Jack gets over there and rips that ball out. And I wasn't sure what the call was on the field.
I wasn't either,
because Myles looked very upset. I thought they were going to say that he was down, that
down by
Deion
contact.
was down by contact.
By contact, yes.
And then they ruled that, I think correctly, that the ball was coming out, and he ripped it out of there. And I thought, I wasn't that blown away by the fact that I'm blowing the whistle, because I thought from the ref's perspective, it certainly looked like as he was ripping the ball away and taking possession, he was touched on the way down.
Right.
Deion Lewis and Myles Jack's bodies were together, so I thought for sure that would be down by contact, but other people thought that maybe he wasn't.
And if they blew the whistle, then, you know, there's nothing you can do.
Right.
Once the whistle is blown, it can't go to replay or as far as that part of it is concerned. But I actually thought whatever was going to be called on the field was actually going to stay, because it was going to be too hard either way, I think, to overturn.
I agree. And so that was the big thing. What was the call on the field? Which we've seen go the other way a couple of times. So I was happy to see. That's the standard. You know, the standard is, unless there's irrefutable evidence, you stay with the call on the field. They did that, and I think they got it right in that situation. Of course, the story leading up to this game in the AFC Championship was all about Tom Brady's hand. And there were people out there that saying this is all a troll by Tom Brady and this is head games by Bill Belichick. Well, you know what? That was not the case at all. Don't take our word for it. Take Tom Brady's. This was Tom Brady this morning on Kirk and Callahan on WEEI, where he makes his weekly radio appearance. And this was him describing his level of concern about the injury to his right thumb when it happened.
You know, we ran into each other, and my thumb just got bent back. It wasn't his helmet or anything. It just, you know, kind of got bent back. That's why I thought it was a lot worse. You know, the doctors, we went and checked it out, and we did, you know, the things just to kind of check on everything. And fortunately, there wasn't, you know, the damage that normally comes associated with that. So I think we're very lucky.
I mean, he went on to say, you know, he was worried. He wasn't sure. I mean, he really wasn't sure whether or not he was going to be able to go until Friday's practice, when it felt a little better.
And again, for those that didn't see it, we had a picture up where the cut was. Just open the palm of your hand and go to the meaty part on the palm, right at the bottom of the thumb there. That's where the cut was. But the fear really was his thumb got bent back, right, and then the cut happened with the pressure of the bending back of the thumb, which I can only imagine that happened, and he went, no way that just happened, and like had to be going, is there any structural damage to my thumb? The cut, you deal with.
That's a
but
surface
man,
one.
was there structural damage to his thumb.
And he went on to say, again, that was his main concern.
It was pretty stressful. I think I was stressed out. Because again, you drive home and you got, all these stitches in your hand in a place, and I got home and I saw my wife, and she said, "What happened?" And I said, "I know, it's just accident practice." And she said, "What's going to happen?" I said, "I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes."
I mean, there was legitimate concern on his part.
I mean, listen, once there was no structural damage, I'm sure everybody in the world was relieved. Then it's like, okay, you're playing with a cut on your hand. Now, it's a quarterback, and the ball can be resting on that part when you're throwing the ball. That cut really on anybody else is not, as I've always said, injuries are a lot dependent on the position that you play.
Yeah.
Like, this injury isn't affecting an offensive lineman.
No, it isn't.
A defensive lineman, someone like that.
Club it up and go.
But a quarterback who's got the ball's got to rest on that and go off of that, there may be some effect. But once there was no structural damage, I'm sure there was a major sigh of relief.
And Mike, you and I have talked that we thought there was one play that really flipped the script in the second half. It was the 3rd and 18 completion, and Tom Brady agreed. He said that was the thing and the play that they needed.
That was huge. And, you need sparks. I mean, you need something to ignite you. When you're losing, it's, which plays are going to make that's going to really kind of incite everything. That was one of those plays. Kind of got sacked and backed up, and then, Danny made an incredible catch on that play, as he did all night, made a bunch of incredible catches, as did, Brandon Cooks and Hogues played great. And I thought the line did a great job blocking, going against one of the best fronts, we faced all year. We hung in there, we battled, and, ultimately we came out on top.
Again, they did get 3 sacks to Jacksonville, but there wasn't as much pressure in the second half.
Nope.
And New England was chipping well. There was good blocking on that play there. It was a standard 4-man rush again. Jacksonville just wasn't, even on 3rd and 18, they were just going to play back, but play the sticks again. Play the sticks.
Know where you are on the field.
That was just an unforgivable mistake defensively, because rarely do you dialing up that 3rd and 18 play, in the playbook.
Well, to that point, they had never completed in the postseason history a play of 3rd and 15 or longer up until that one. So unbelievable. That was the one that really turned it around.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Let's not expect too much. There's only one person out there that's expecting way too much out of this guy too early. We know who that is. It's his father.
Mike, you've already done the most important thing in Super Bowl prep.
And we're going to bring Ryan Clark into this as well, as he's in studio with us, because Ryan, you are going to the Super Bowl on what day?
Monday.
Monday of the Super Bowl, not obviously.
Yes, not the Monday after.
A week.
I'm there for a week. Monday to Monday.
It would be a really bad travel plan to start your coverage the Monday after the Super Bowl.
So the Monday that's on January, 29th.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then, Trey, you and I are getting there Tuesday.
We get out there Tuesday.
The 30th. So here we go. Here's the forecast, because it really is more about how it's going to affect us.
Absolutely.
Right?
The game's inside.
So there you go. So Monday when you get there, high, Ryan, of 25.
Nice.
Low of 21. Not bad. Tuesday, Trey, when we get there, high of 39.
You wanted a 30-degree day.
Are you kidding me?
We are bringing you a 30-degree day.
No shirts and everything outside.
Flip-flops and shorts.
Absolutely.
Low of 20. Wednesday, high of 25.
Deal.
Still not bad.
Fine. Piece of cake.
Low of 8.
Okay, that low is going in the wrong direction.
Thursday, high of 18.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Low of 5.
I don't have those type of clothes.
We're going
Friday,
in the wrong direction.
High of 17.
Okay.
AM snow showers.
Oh, shower, that's nothing. Just a little flurry. We can deal
Saturday,
with that.
high of 17.
Okay.
Low of 5.
The gerbil tunnels will be in full effect.
Sunday, game day.
Woo! I gotta
high
go to the
of
game.
16. AM snow showers.
I don't have
low of 2.
I don't have gear for that.
Yeah.
I don't have Eskimo clothes.
Go shopping.
No. Minneapolis does it. You can live in the winter in Minneapolis and never go outdoors. They have the hamster tunnels that go between the buildings.
I know it all sounds good, but it's not going to be as convenient. We're going to do it. We're going to have to be outside.
And it's Super Bowl week, though.
Yeah.
Like, getting around and moving around in Super Bowl week is already miserable.
Are you really, as a former NFL player who played in Philadelphia, that concerned about the weather?
No. Listen, a little bit. I was tough when I played. Now, not so much.
Same thing with me when I played in the 4th grade.
There you go.
I was
People
very
get confused, though.
Yeah.
We're only out there for like a few
That's
hours,
exactly
though.
right.
Like, I can suck it up for a few hours and because I'm getting paid.
There you go.
To be cold.
Money.
Yes.
Nailed it.
You know, that
Nailed
changes,
it.
That changes your perspective on a lot of
Adrenaline
things.
helps. The
Absolutely.
whole deal helps. Yeah.
Which is bizarre because one of the warmest Super Bowls we ever had was Indianapolis.
Yes, it was.
And one of the coldest Super Bowls ever, Dallas.
Yeah.
Or the North Texas, in air quotes, Super Bowl.
Right.
Absolutely miserable.
It was
the
brutal.
worst
Minneapolis,
week
we
ever.
look forward to getting there. Kinda.
We look forward to being indoors, always. We look forward to experiencing what our pets as kids experience, walking through the tunnels from place
Everybody
to place.
feels so sorry for us as we get to go to the Super Bowl.
Literally no one does. As you said, Ryan Clark joins us in studio, Super Bowl champ, and works for us now, giving us the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Okay, Straight Talk. What surprised you more in the AFC Championship game? That the Jags had a chance to win in the fourth quarter, or that the Patriots came back from another double-digit deficit in the fourth quarter?
See, that's tough because I thought the Jags would have a chance to win. I didn't necessarily know they'd be up by 10, but I thought they'd be in the game. And are we ever surprised when Tom Brady and the Patriots come back? So
can't be.
If you give me those two, is that the Jags had a chance to win, that the Jags should have won.
Oh, okay.
Would be even more specific for me. You look at this team, if you say we're going to give you a 10-point lead with that defense.
In the fourth quarter.
With the defense who I think played with a large amount of historic ignorance, which I thought helped them.
Yep.
Right. When Jalen Ramsey looks across at Tom Brady quarterbacking, he doesn't see the Tom Brady legacy. He sees the 40-year-old dude that's quarterbacking now. These younger players, they don't necessarily, and you can hear it in the way they talk, they don't have a respect for pedigree or for history or for accomplishments. It's about today. And so I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars played with a swagger, especially defensively, that said, we don't necessarily care that you're the Patriots. But they got a taste of it. They know now that when you play the Patriots, it's a game that you have to play until the clock reads zero.
Right. So along those lines, we kept talking about in the offense how in the second half they went into a shell. If you want to say the end of the first half, if you want to say maybe with 55 seconds of 2 timeouts and the lead, they should have gone for more, but they were getting the ball in the third quarter. So a lot of people don't want to give them as much grief for that, though. Philadelphia had 29 seconds left in the half and made it happen. Absolutely. And got the ball in the
against
third quarter.
The number one defense in the NFL.
Exactly right. They weren't afraid to go for it. The offense kind of went into turtle mode and kind of the head in the shell. So we know that. And nobody's blaming Blake Bortles for the loss. They didn't even give Blake Bortles a chance, a realistic chance because of the play calling. Defensively, I talked about the D-line where they just rushed 4, were getting chipped and did nothing to adjust. They had the Miles Jack blitz one time up the gut. That worked well. How about in the secondary? Did you see changes in the secondary from half to where now they're completing a 3rd and 18, one of the most crucial plays of the game?
They didn't necessarily change. If you look at this team, it's just a man-to-man team when you have A.J. Boye and Jalen Ramsey who can play on the outside. Often plays cover 3 where you have single high, rolling Barry Church down, having Tayshaun Gibson in the middle. This was actually a 2-high safety defense, a cover 2, which you don't see a lot out of Jacksonville. I'm not going to say it's prevent, but they wanted to have the Patriots throw the ball in front of them and have an opportunity to make a tackle. If you watch Tom Brady move Miles Jack out the middle with the look at James White and then throw the ball over the middle, I mean, that's one of those plays you have to make. And I think when you have the type of speed that they have on the second and third levels and the type of talent that they have, you give your team a chance to attack Tom Brady. Anybody who's watched Tom Brady and the New England Patriots perform for, the last 2 decades knows you can't give him time. He's surgical. He will pick you apart. He will find a place to throw it. And I felt like in the second half, they didn't make that adjustment, where inversely, Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia made all the adjustments. You saw them doing the add-on blitzes and the play-action passes against Jacksonville, which were effective in the first half. They stopped that in the second half. Now, Josh McDaniels empties the bucket.
Oh, my gosh.
On plays that he has.
Yeah, he does.
He empties the bucket and does exactly what he needs to do to score. And when Gronk goes out, Tom goes to a familiar face. Amendola becomes the guy over the middle because you don't want to attack those guys outside.
Ryan Clark with us in studio, our fine ESPN NFL analyst and, of course, a Super Bowl champion during his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. What you just said, I think, is so important, and I think it spoke to how much respect the Patriots had for that Jacksonville defense. I mean, the play they called on 4th and 2 on the first drive.
Yes.
You don't
Big
want
play.
You don't want to make that play in the first quarter. They had the double pass play. They had the flea flicker. They had to dig deep, especially without Gronk, to find something that worked. And I think that spoke to how much they really respected that unit on the other side of the ball.
Absolutely. Coming into the game, when the matchups were made last Monday, I spoke about how I felt like personnel-wise, the Jacksonville Jaguars were a perfect defense to play against the New England Patriots. They were in the secondary. They could play press man. Most games they could rush 4 and get pressure. And you had linebackers in Jack and Smith who could run with wide receivers and running backs out of the backfield. So I thought they were perfectly suited to play this game. And that's why Josh McDaniels had to do some of the things that he did, had to call some of the plays that he called. And it's why he's going to be a head coach at the end of this Super Bowl run, or if they lose to Philadelphia, because when it was on the line, he put his team in positions to be successful. And that's what you have to do.
Which really surprised me, Ryan, on the other side of the lack of adjustments. From the offensive side, that's a complete lack of confidence in Blake Bortles. I don't care if you're backed up, son.
Do you blame him?
No, I don't blame him. But, I mean, you also know to beat the Patriots, you've got to stay aggressive. And what was working in the first half? Every time you saw a drive chart, 8 plays, 9 plays, 4 runs, 5 pass.
Right.
I charted 7 times in the first half they threw on first down.
Right.
3 times in the second half they threw on first down. They would do that run right up the gut wherever. At least do a read option. A read option with Blake Bortles. Let him run it once. Do something that doesn't say, hey, Leonard Fournette, you're going to get hit by 8 guys on this play. So I get the lack of confidence, but you also know, okay, I have to weigh it against, we can't keep giving New England a chance with the ball because we know how good they are.
I absolutely agree with that. You spoke about Philadelphia going at the end of the second half with less time on the clock, getting a field goal and also getting the ball. That was a huge, not momentum swing, but that was a huge uptick in the game.
They kept the pressure on.
Absolutely, for Philadelphia. But life is about perspective, right? So let's look at the perspective. If you're Philadelphia, you're up 2 touchdowns, you're at home, you have Doug Peterson and Nick Foles, who you now believe in, who Doug Peterson believes in Nick Foles. He's a guy that he thinks can lead this team to the championship, which he did. On the other side, you have Nathaniel Hackett, and you're looking at Blake Bortles thinking he can't play any better than this. As a team, we can't perform any better than this, and now we're up 14-10 against the New England Patriots, and we get the ball. Let's just not be stupid, right? You can't. The fourth quarter of the Pittsburgh Steelers game and the first half of the New England Patriot game does not erase Blake Bortles' entire season.
I completely agree. So I will give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt of not going for it at the end of the half. What I won't, because of what you just said, Blake Bortles was playing his best because they were mixing it up.
I agree.
Now, in the second half, they were putting him in a horrible position of 2nd and 9.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not Blake Bortles. Right. And then 3rd and 8. You can't do that. They were mixing it up so well, giving him a 2nd and 5, a 2nd and 4, a 2nd and 6, where the playbook is still so wide open. They almost did him by not having confidence in him. They almost did him a disservice.
I think they did do him a disservice.
I think they absolutely did.
Also, if you look early on in the third quarter, they were in backed up situations a couple of times, and they came out the first time and they did throw on first down, and they didn't get it, and they got some pressure, and that's when Matt Patricia started to add on to the blitz. And I believe after that they got nervous.
Yeah,
I believe they got nervous and said, okay, the Patriots have made their adjustment, which they do every halftime of every game. And they didn't counter it by doing something else. They came in with the game plan, and they said, oh, my goodness, this game plan doesn't work. Let's just turn around and hand it off when the box is stacked. They did. Now, later on in the half, in the fourth quarter, Blake Bortles is forced to throw. You know he's throwing. He's now one-dimensional, and that's not a place you want to be if you're the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Although he made a couple of throws that gave you a little hope. And I would like to talk, as Ryan Clark is with us here in studio, we're all talking about the throw on 4th and 14 that he didn't make. Can you just, as a former defensive back, tell people how impossibly hard that play was by Stephon Gilmore?
First of all, the nerves that are gripping you as this ball is in the air is one thing, right? So the fact that he didn't panic and grab him, didn't panic and tackle him early, pass interfere was huge. Also, he was floating in the air. He jumped too early.
Yep.
He jumped too early, but he stayed patient. He stayed within himself, and he makes a huge play. And we were talking about Stephon Gilmore basically ruining the Patriots defense early on in the season with communication errors and not being in the right place, not playing ball the Patriot way. That's why they brought him there, because of those type of athletic plays. And that's a huge play. And it's a good play by Bortles to step up in the pocket.
Tremendous
create time. The throw's on point. And for Stephon Gilmore, who actually D.D. Westbrook had a step on him to elevate the way he did, to make the play he did. Sometimes we miss the first round pedigree, the actual tangibles that goes into being that type of athlete. And Stephon Gilmore showed it all on that play, along with being able to understand this is not a time to panic. Relax, go back to your preparation, what got you here, and make this play.
Great play.
It was an amazing play. And there are people out there, and we've had the tweets all morning, the refs had the fix in for the Patriots. Well, let's just dispel that rumor right now. This is from our fine researcher, Brett, here. For all the talk about this, prior to this season, the Patriots had played 34 playoff games with Brady and Belichick. They've been called for 164 penalties. Their opponents have been called for 166.
Yeah.
So we're talking about 2 penalties more over 34 games.
Yeah.
So really, you think that's going to be the thing that swung the game?
Yeah, and first of all, they don't want the Patriots in. Like, that's not, it's not a thing. It's not like, let's help the Patriots win as many
Because there's such a great relationship there?
Because we love them.
What happened last year? What happened last year?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. We want them. We want all good for these guys.
Come on.
You know, I will say the one call
on Boye.
Oh boy, it was awful. Garbage.
That's, and now when you make that call, it's a spot foul.
Right.
That's a difficult call.
Yeah.
Yes,
right. It gave the Patriots an opportunity to score a touchdown, but the delay of game,
inexcusable.
I can call
that's
that
on them.
That's
inexcusable. Coming out of a timeout. That's
I
on
have
them.
to cheat to call that, and so that's a little difficult to say.
All right, we're just halfway through what we got to get out of Ryan here. We'll get his take on the NFC title game in 30 seconds. But first, Mike.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up, just like the Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look. They have renovated their lobby for a more cool, contemporary look, and their totally updated fitness center is going to put you in the mood to work out. Plus, plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out, gives you that vibe of victory, so you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting. Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites. Book now at LQ.com.
All right, so as we continue with Ryan Clark in studio, let's move over to the NFC Championship game. And if I had told you before the game that Nick Foles would do something that would put him in a category where the list is him and Joe Montana, and that's the entire list, would you have believed it?
It depends on if it was the one thing Joe Montana did bad.
No. You're right. That's a great, I should have prefaced in a positive way.
Absolutely not.
Nick Foles, back-to-back postseason games, completing 75% of his throws, joining Joe Montana as the only quarterbacks to pull that off. What can you say about the game Foles had?
Can I for one, tell you I want to fight Nick Foles?
You want to fight him?
I want to fight him.
Why is that?
Because he had a chance to make me seem brilliant when he first took over the job. And then he stunk it up so bad down the stretch. I changed on him, and then he was the guy I thought he could be.
Right.
When he took over against the Rams, and we saw some of the clutch throws he made, some of the poise he had.
Played great against the Giants.
I was like, you know what? Nick Foles is going to be all right. The Philadelphia Eagles can make it to the Super Bowl without Carson Wentz. And then after that Giant game, I go, maybe not. Maybe Nick Foles stinks. So then I totally turn on him, and I pick against him for 2 weeks, and Nick Foles is hanging out with Joe Montana in a yacht, doing stuff that you don't expect him to do. I think when you look at this, and Nick Foles deserves a ton of credit for some of the decision making, the on-point throws down the field last night. But we have to give Doug Peterson some love.
Hell yeah.
You have to look at the way he's been settling him down with some of those early calls, some of the run-pass option things, some of the passes to the backs in the flat, screens to the wide receivers, and then he started to dial up the double moves and dial up the big plays downfield. After you've shown your quarterback you have confidence in him, shown your quarterback that you believe in his talents and what he can bring to the team. And I thought that was amazing. And if you're Nick Foles, you've experienced success before. It's not new to you to be successful. I mean, he was 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions years ago, coming in a backup role and playing the rest of the season. So he understands the game. He's a great decision maker, and he's given this team a chance to play for the Super Bowl. They didn't win these games in spite of Nick Foles. So because of him.
How about the other side of that? We're both former defensive players, me on the line and you in the secondary. And when you're playing on a great defense, which we both did, and it gets away from you, which happens. You play long enough, it happens, and it just starts to snowball on you like it did against Minnesota.
If you look at the faces of disbelief last night. After every touchdown, I remember they showed Harrison Smith one time.
Right.
And his face read, I have no idea what's going on and no idea how to stop it.
How helpless is that feeling?
It's
when you realize that, for both of you, and when you've been in a game of this magnitude or closer, when you realize, guys, there's nothing we can do.
It's just as Ryan said, you can't believe it's happening.
Yes.
And then because of that, you're thinking about you can't believe it's happening.
You know what
doesn't stop? The game.
Right.
So it keeps happening.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're trying to fix stuff you didn't have to fix.
Absolutely.
All year. And then there's that bewilderment out there. And then the effect snowballs, especially when a team like Philadelphia, they kept their foot on the pedal.
When we played Arizona in the Super Bowl, that season we were historically great defensively. And we're winning that game. It's the fourth quarter, and the Larry Fitzgerald show starts.
See you later.
Yeah.
Right. Larry Fitzgerald, he scores. He catches the fade ball on Ike. Ike has his hand in between his hands on the ball. Larry Fitzgerald pliers, grips it. They throw the slash route. He catches it on China, goes 70 yards. And I am on the sideline. There's a picture. There's a video, like when they show the game. I have my hands on my head like this. I'm literally walking up and down the sideline saying, we lost it. And I wasn't talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
I was talking about us as a defense, because much like Jacksonville, much like Golic is telling you about the Eagles in Minnesota, you expect to be the reason you win it every single game. And when you are the reason the team isn't close, when you're the reason you're getting blown out, when you're the reason you're losing, it is the most helpless feeling you can ever have.
It's funny now that you guys have brought that up. I remember the last Super Bowl that Joe Montana won for the 49ers. They beat Denver 55-10. And I can't remember who
in the Superdome.
In the Superdome, right. It was one of the defensive stars for the Broncos. I can't remember his name, but he was mic'd up for NFL Films, and they had him on the sidelines, and he's sitting there on the sideline. He goes, hey, man, what's happening out there?
Yeah.
What's happening, man? I mean, the eyes are as wide as saucers, and that to your point, it's like, we haven't done this all year.
Absolutely.
How is this happening to us now?
Right.
That's got to be the most helpless feeling in the world.
The worst thing you start doing then is thinking.
Yeah.
And once you start thinking, you're done, because great teams just play on their greatness. They just play. They just know what they're going to do. When you start all of a sudden thinking about what you're going to do.
Yeah, if you look at the Alshon Jeffrey play over Terrence Newman. Terrence Newman gets his eyes in the backfield. He gets beat. Later on in the half, Harrison Smith, who's an all-pro safety, one of the best players in this league, gets beat on the out and up by Zach Ertz. They started to do things that were uncharacteristic of that Minnesota Vikings defense.
So let's just get this out of the way, because it was asked by somebody, and it's no disrespect to Foles when you say this. Michael tweets, if Foles wins the Super Bowl, what do the Eagles do a quarterback next season?
Come on.
I mean,
even Foles knows the answer to that.
So let's just get that out there.
Foles will gladly become the backup again, but you'll never take away the fact that he led his team to a Super Bowl. I also have one thing, guys. This has nothing to do with the NFC game, right? This is the AFC game and the Super Bowl, right? Because we were talking about Philly. So Malcolm Jenkins, a very harmless statement, right? He says, we're not going there for a field trip.
Right.
We're going to win this game.
Yeah, as they should feel.
Yeah. Lane Johnson states very, very positive facts about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is a handsome guy.
Yes, he is. Pretty boy, Tom Brady.
Right. He called him a pretty boy. He's a handsome guy.
Yes, he is.
And along with all the other 31 teams in the NFL and every other city and state in America, everybody would love to dethrone Tom Brady. It's gotten to the point you can't even be confident anymore when you talk about the New England Patriots, because it's seen as some type of guarantee or some type of shot at their greatness. They're still just the team that's playing today. You're not playing against all of the Lombardi trophies. Let's let these guys be.
Tom has all of them.
Yeah.
Tom has all of them.
I didn't have a problem with what Jacksonville speaking of.
When you invoke destiny, that's like destiny's not playing on Super Bowl Sunday.
But as far as the garbage talk, I'm with you. If that's what you do, I mean, Lane Johnson talked a lot about the underdog or the hat, and Jacksonville talked a lot of smack. Be who you are. I don't have a problem.
And then when you catch that L,
there you go.
got to catch that L.
That's exactly right. And the only guy in Philadelphia that caught the L last night was the guy that ran into the pole at the train station. One of the greatest videos of all time. RC, thanks, brother.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you later on this week.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.
hair? I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick, Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.